But anyway, so it just changed my life. So I decided to really dive in, and Nightwish, Sonata Arctica, and Halloween turned out to be the bands on this particular album that I really dove into. And I started diving into all these individual albums by the bands, and I loved all of it. All of it. Nightwish is amazing. Halloween is amazing. Sonata Arctica, a weird name, but it's amazing. Really great stuff. And I became an obsessed metal fan from this album. And of course, I've got all 5 Metal Dreams volumes now. And I've got every album that each of those bands, has put out. And there's more that I discovered too. Stratovarius and, Sabaton. And just, so many. I could name them all off, but there's too many of them. But they're just incredible. So anyway, in flashing forward to 2008. Okay, I'm in between jobs, right? I was a store manager for KB Toy Store. Remember KB Toy Stores? Oh man, it was like the pathetic, mall version of Toys R Us. But I was a store manager in Long Island, and that company folded. They went under for obvious reasons. They were mismanaged. Not by the store managers, but by the upper management people who were. My district manager lived in Atlanta, Georgia. So every time she came to visit, she had to get, an airplane, a car rental, and a hotel stay. And that's $2,000 to $3,000 every time they visited. So yeah, they're pissing away their money. Because how many DMs are there, Why did they live in Atlanta when they were running the stores in New York? It didn't make any sense! Anyway, I lost my job, and it was before I found Ricky's. Ricky's was a beauty supply chain that I loved working there. Again, once that company got sold and the new managers took over, it started to suck. But in the early years, that was such a great place. So I'm in between jobs, and I'm questioning what I'm doing with my life. Okay, I'm like 28, 29 years old. I'm reaching 30, which at that point was scary. I'm not going to go into it, but I didn't know what to do. So I get on Craigslist, which was a thing back then. I don't know if is it still a thing? I don't know. But it was a thing, and I was looking for something musical. I still have my trumpet. Even as I'm recording this right now, I'm 5 feet away from my trumpet from high school. Haven't opened it in a million years, but it's always right there, no matter where I'm living, whether it was Dallas or Denver or New York or wherever. My trumpet is always 5 feet away from me. It's like Linus in his security blanket. I just like to have it there. It reminds me, that music is really my passion. So I get on Craigslist and I start looking for musical acts or something that I, could be a part of. And I find this ad for a metal band who just fired their lead singer. And I'm like, oh man, okay, all right, this is a big one. Do I click on this? Or do I move on with my life? Anyway, I click on it. I send the guy an email. Say, hey, man, I'm, just about 30 years old. I'm a tenor. I love metal. How much further can I sell myself here, right? So, surprisingly, I get a note back from saying, yeah, okay, we're running auditions on Tuesday or whatever day it was, at this little studio in New York City. And I was scared to death. I was petrified. I walk into the studio. It's like one of those really old, it looked like a drug ring place. And there's like, just bright white blinking halogens like you see in like old factories or like, like the Walking Dead. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, geez, I think I'm out of my league here. And I'm just standing outside the room and I poke my head in. There's 2 people I don't recognize and I don't see the guy who I was emailing. So I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, this guy comes down the hall with a guitar strapped to his back with this woman, and he goes, hey, are you Ross? I said, yeah. Are you Al? He goes, yeah, man. So I go in there, and I made a fool of myself. I really did, because he was, all right, he says, all right, well, let's get to know you a little bit. Let's sing some songs. Do you know this one song by Black Sabbath? I said, nah. He's like, well, what do you know? Do you know Metallica? I said, some, not really my voice, but here's where I won it over, right? I had memorized their song. Yeah, they had an original song that they had put out, and I memorized that one. I thought, if I don't know any of these other songs, at least I know the songs that they're writing, right? And he goes, oh, okay. So he starts playing a song, the guitar riff. I grab the mic, and I belt out this song, and it went really well. And Then he tested my knowledge with, writing. He said, okay, well, we've been working on this one song. No pressure here. Don't worry about the words. Just, see what you can do with it. And he starts playing this song, and, I'm kind of making some stuff up, and, that didn't always go so well. I've never really been a good, improv artist. But anyway, so yeah, I left for the night, and and he tells me, like, right off the bat, like, before I left, he's like, listen, you're the guy, And so basically I got the part. I became the lead singer of this metal band. And I went home and I was like, guess who's the new lead singer of a metal band? And I was so thrilled. So I go back and we start learning stuff, and I start writing lyrics. And unfortunately, the first 9 songs I learned with them were pre-written songs. Like the last lead singer had already performed these. So I didn't really get to write until probably a year into this. So most of our gigs ahead of time in the early days were, their songs, and they were corny. I mean, it was like being a pirate. I'm like, geez, violence in medieval times, and, the great murderer Nero. And I was like, oh, geez, it was kind of embarrassing, but I didn't care because I loved it. I loved being on the stage with these guys, and it was fun. And the best part of being in this band was the recording studio. I got to go to a recording studio in New Jersey, and I went there maybe 5 or 6 times, and we got to record vocals, and we got to write some stuff while we were in the studio, and it was just, I loved it. So I actually have an album. I have an album from the time that I was with that band. Again, except for one. All the songs on there except for one were the pre-written ones that I had to just kind of fill in for, but one of them is mine. I wrote most of it. I wrote all the lyrics and the vocal medley, and I helped the mixing of the instrumental parts, and I was very proud of that one. I actually copyrighted it. Yeah, I actually copyrighted the song, so they can't use it, which is great. So that's my one claim to fame, is that one song. I am not going to play it on this podcast. But I promise you, it's not just the metal you're thinking when you think of metal. When I say that I'm a metal fan, people go, oh, that's too bad. Like it's just yelling and screaming and banging. And it's like, no, like every genre of music, there's like a million subgenres and subgenres of that and subgenres. And the metal that I love is, I guess you can call symphonic power metal, and that is musicians that are actually really, really talented. They've got harmony, and they've got lyrics you can understand, and their vocal performances are so amazing. They could be, professional singers in operas and stuff like that. I mean, they're amazing. You'll never hear of it because, the United States doesn't really embrace that kind of music. I mean, we've got, Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande, and I don't know who the latest one is, but you know what I mean? It's all marketing out here, whereas in, a lot of parts of the world, like Finland and Germany and places like that, they actually use talent as their basis. Who would have thought of that? That talent matters! Yeah, but, so I love those bands, and I got to be a part of one, and it was amazing. I got an album. And unfortunately, slowly but surely over the years, I think I was with them for 4 years, and it just became bad. I realized we weren't going to go anywhere. The guy, the lead singer, who not the lead singer, I was the lead singer. Yeah, I had problems with me. No, the lead guitarist was kind of stuck in a fantasy world. He didn't really embrace the online stuff. He just thought that if we booked a gig and we played, that our fans would follow. And once upon a time, that may have been the thing. I mean, a lot of the bands, in the 80s and the 70s, that's how they won their fans over. They just opened up for bands or other bands, hoping they could gain some of their fanhood. And unfortunately, that's just not the way it works these days. I mean, there's the internet, and there's YouTube, which is part of the internet. But you've really got to market yourself, And the first thing I thought of, okay, well, now we've got an album. We got to make some videos. We got to make a video for every song. I mean, even if it's just us singing, like it's got to be a video. And he kind of just kept putting it on the back burner, and he kept saying the music would sell itself. The music would sell itself. And, I went along with it for a while, but then you get to that point where you start to lose hope. And then that's the beginning of a downward spiral. You just, after that point, you stop wanting to go to rehearsals, and you stop taking the gigs seriously. And, we had some great gigs, which was great. Our best gigs were the ones where it was like a festival. All the good gigs were in Brooklyn, because you had music festivals down there where you just had 1,000 people who didn't know who you were. They were just there for the music, right? So you had a chance right there to really kind of show off your talent, hoping that they would follow. But you had to have something lined up. You had to have a CD or a website or some music videos, or else you lose them pretty quickly. And while those gigs were great, nobody remembered who we were the next day because we had nothing to give them. Shirts or bumper stickers or anything that reminded that we existed. We did try the email list where we got their emails, we'd send them emails, but the biggest mistake we made there was that most of the emails that we got were people who were under the age of 21. And that sounds fine, but the problem is that most of the places we performed wouldn't allow anyone to attend under the age of 21. So most of the people hey, we got a gig coming up. Sorry, you got to be 21. And then 90% of our fans couldn't go because they weren't 21. So I think that was a big fail there. But again, I had no part of this. I was just a lead singer for hire who was having a blast. But that was it. So I wound up leaving the band. I kind of blew up at the guitar player, during rehearsal, and I walked out. I did get back together with them briefly in 2012 because they couldn't find another singer who had the tolerance that I had. So they offered to pay me. They were actually paying me. I was literally a singer for hire. And they were paying me to be their singer. I got paid for the gigs, I got paid for the rehearsals, but even that, I just couldn't do it anymore. This guy became more and more of an airhead. He was into drugs, and it was just living the music, the pop stars, rock stars life, I guess. But it's not really real. The thing is, you watch all those old documentaries on Pantera and all those other guys, and they're sitting there doing drugs, and it's cool and. That's not what it is. It's your tolerance, for criticism. It's competition. It's your ability to come up with something new and to put on a good show. And our show sucked. It really did. They just did not want to take any measures to make the show great. I tried adding a little choreography, just little things like we all headbang at the same time, just like cool little things where we. Shift back and forth during this one musical part, just cool stuff to make the show kind of fun. We finally did get some outfits, which I thought were kind of cool, but it was too late at that point. But so that was it. That was my years as a lead singer in a band, and I've always wanted to go back to it. But statistically, a 41-year-old doesn't exactly become a metal band lead singer anymore unless you're with a bunch of starving musicians who've never made it. That's kind of who you're finding these days. Because if you find a metal band, they're in their 20s, and they audition a singer who's 41, it's just not going to work. It's not. There's too much of a life gap there. I'm not saying it's not possible. Look what Journey did. Journey did the opposite though. Journey, they lost what's his name, and then they picked up this other guy who was like half their age, and he was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. But even that didn't last because then that guy left, I think. So I don't know, whatever. But so ends the metal years. But yeah,